Hi guys, welcome back. I have Ismael Perez with me again. I am honored to have him back on my channel. He's so graciously accepted my invitation. Thank you for being here.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. So since our last interview about a month ago, I have been somewhat bombarded by questions, especially from the Jewish community. Because there's like a lot of confusion in what we grew up learning about this age of redemption, the age of love, the Mashiach times that we're in. The narrative that we were taught, which was very much a 3D narrative, I think, that a man is going to come riding in on a donkey and save us. There could be truth to that still, but I think there's also a 5D version of that, a galactic version of that, that's going to blow everybody's, blow the roof off. And my intention with you, Ishmael, as I was telling you before, is to just kind of help the consciousness expand, especially in the Jewish community. So when stuff does happen, when stuff does go down, people will be less afraid because they heard it already. They heard us have a conversation about it. So this is me and Guru became accidental galactic Jewish representatives. And we're just, we just feel such a strong kinship to you. You feel like our brother. And we're coming to realize that it's not really about religion. It's just about vibration, who you feel is up in that high vibing place with you. Are you ready to start?
Yeah, can I address something before you ask the questions?
Absolutely.
Okay, so the reason why the Jewish community is still waiting for the Messiah and how they don't recognize that Jesus was the Messiah 2,000 years ago, like the Christian community does, is because they were expecting a superhuman, a Superman, a literal Kal coming from planet Krypton with supernatural powers, 6'3" Adonis, and overthrowing the Roman Empire in one blow. And so that's the original prophecies. What they were expecting is they were expecting someone that comes from the lineage of Zeus. Zeus was like the ancient guardian of the earth, and that is the bloodline that gave us the house of King David and Solomon. And through that same lineage, Jesus and Mary Magdalene, Joseph of Arimathea, Martha, and their immediate family were part of. So that is the reason why they don't believe that he was, the Christ. They're according to the original prophecies, he's supposed to be a superhuman, a Superman figure. But what they didn't understand is that Superman figure is now going to be emerging among the existing human race. He's going to be like the leader of all the light, the Elohim, the 144,000, the starseeds. He's going to be like the one that's going to lead that war against evil for one final, redemption and ushering in the golden age.
Are you saying that it is Jesus that will come, or it's going to be a different type of figure, a brand new person?
Through his lineage, through his bloodline, through the house of David, yes.
Through the house of David. So that's very much in line with Jewish thinking also. So thank you for straightening that out.
Of course.
And I think you also had wanted to straighten out something that we spoke about with Elana Danan.
Yes. Yeah, so let me just correct myself. It's not that she physically died. It's that her body was overtaken through a parasite from within. So now the Dracos are using her as a host. So it's no longer her. It's still the same body, but it's no longer her soul. And that explains why people for months have been noticing something different about her. There is no life spark in her eyes. She's totally been inorganic. Now she's just being used for Archon energy. She's actually been compromised by AI through Enki, because Enki has returned, but he's no longer biological. Enki has also been, Enki was involved in this AI thing for many thousands of years. So Enki's already cybernetic. He's no longer biological. And that explains why a small group of the Federation, a very tiny group, defected within the last 10 months because of this return of Enki, who is actually Lucifer, by the way. And he's part of this, AI system that big tech is now developing here in this world. He's connected to all that.
Okay, thank you for clearing that up. That's big. That's big. And I also want to bring up what we were talking about right before we started recording, that how much we love Alex Collier and what he's brought to the table since the 80s. He was foundational in this conversation. He was like one of the pioneers, and perhaps was vulnerable because he was prone to depression. You know, he always spoke about that, and he was very open about that, speaking, I think, about his suicide attempts, because he just wanted to go back home to Andromeda. You know, he felt very lonely here on this planet, which we can all the starseeds can relate to. So it's just a reminder for all of us to keep ourselves in high vibe so we aren't susceptible to the dark side. You know, that's the work of life, you know, to do the energy work. So you ready to get
I agree with that. Yes, he was, one of my heroes when I first started my journey, and I'm just reporting what the galactics are telling me. It's sadly to say that through his depression, the dark side was able to kind of work through him, and in the last few months now, and that's why I said what I said about him as well. That he has been also compromised.
Yes. Well, thank you for clarifying that. I think we all needed to hear that. Okay, so my first question, can you explain the concept of the 144,000? I'm still not clear on it. And does it relate somehow to the lost tribes of Israel?
It relates to the tribe of Judah.
Okay.
To the lineage of King David and those direct descendants. Basically, the 144,000 are the people that carry the highest concentration of the celestial DNA that originated in Lyra. And then it went to Sirius, and then it also went to the Pleiades. So those are the 144,000. And the reason that they are pretty much at the core of the different starseeds that are now numbering in the millions is because they also represent the most advanced souls in the multiverse. So that's why they had to be born in such a pure lineage that could be traceable technically all the way to Michael the Archangel. The 144,000 are his descendants. They are the descendant warriors that have volunteered to help bring this earth into the age of light, into the age of Messiah.
That's such an interesting way to think about it, that it's the tribe of Judah. Wow. So the people who are not in the 144,000, they'll still have an important role as well.
Yeah, because there's 12 tribes of Israel. That's just the tribe of Judah. We still have the tribe of Naphtali, Benjamin, Issachar, and the other ones. So everyone else that is a starseed comes from those. We are Israel. The starseed nation is all 12 tribes combined and now coming together as one tribe, as prophesied about. That's why God divided us during the times of Babel. And now he's reuniting us here through America.
This is beautiful. This is beautiful. Oh, and I heard that America, I heard this, I corrected this with the friend who told me that, America will turn into Israel, but Jerusalem will become the country of Israel. Does that make any sense to you? Like the whole Israel now will become the capital of the New Jerusalem. What do you think of that?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense, because according to my research, and as I revealed in my book, when the world structure reconfigurates into this new world structure called the Federated Regions, which I talk about in my book, there's 22 of them. The region we identified today as Israel is going to be known as the Jerusalem Federation, and the Jerusalem Federation is the name of that actual land. But yeah, at the same time, America is going to be leading the way for freedom. It's going to be, in a sense, the way shower for the rest of the planet to follow into this new, age of light and beauty and justice.
I love that. It's like the marriage of everything good in my world. America and Israel coming together is the best.
Yeah, because Israel for the longest time has been under the control of the Rothschilds and the fake Zionists and the Khazarians that are posing as Jews, but they're really not Jews. They are Babylon. All the elite families are Babylon. Their great ancestor, great, going back to generations back, is Nimrod and Nebuchadnezzar, not Abraham. Those are two different opposing lineages that have always been warring.
Right, and it's so confusing for us nowadays because they cry anti-Semitism because they're hiding within our religion. And all of the other Jewish people are traumatized by anti-Semitism also. So it's so much confusion inside the religion, because when you talk about Q to other Jewish people, they're like, no, it's anti-Semitism. Don't talk about Q. They're talking about the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers, and they're all Jews. and me and Guru are actually going to do a Zoom about this because it has to be cleared up. There's so much gaslighting inside the Jewish community about this whole anti-Semitism and how the descendants of Nimrod use us as a shield because they cry the same anti-Semitism, and they're protected under it. So really, I'm glad you brought that up. Okay, so life in 5D, right? First of all, what will the weather be like?
It's going to be perfect. It's going to be the same year round. We're not going to have the different seasons, because the reason we have seasons is due to the wobble of the earth. That's all going to be recalibrated. It's going to be tropical year round. It's going to be like paradise every day for
thank God
24/7. And that's how most worlds exist. Worlds don't go through these weather changes. They don't have seasons the way we do, because they're so advanced that they're able to constantly control their atmosphere. They are able to make it rain when they want it to rain. They are able to make it sunny when they want for it to be sunny. They have absolute control of the elements. And so that's what we're heading into. We're heading into a world where our species, as we become higher dimensional beings, we're going to be in communication and in tune with the nature forces. And as a result of that, we're going to determine how we want the weather to be 24/7.
Oh, I love that. That's such a relief, because I think a lot of the depression on the planet comes from being in winter, and being subjected to the forces of nature. Okay, so in your interview with Mickey Clan, I heard you guys talk about how when you were younger, you did modeling, and you were approached by the cabal.
Several times, yeah.
They tried to get to you, right?
Yes.
And I heard you say that they offered you to be on, like, let's say People magazine as the sexiest man alive.
Well, they were trying to entice me by saying that if I signed a contract with an agent that was going to, I guess, shift my career from modeling to acting, that immediately they would catapult my career. I'd be shooting movie after movie, be like the next Brad Pitt, and then, that would make me or qualify me to become people's sexiest men alive. But I was in my early 20s when they approached me,
So my
and
question,
I turned them down.
Go ahead.
Turned them
Okay,
down.
so
Yeah.
you turned them down. So my question
yes.
really for you, I'm always like interested in the layer underneath, like the psychological reasons people do things. So we know about you from your interviews that you didn't grow up with a father, that your mom died when you were 16. Correct. So you didn't have an easy childhood, and you felt different your whole childhood. So I want to understand psychologically how you were so strong in those moments, and how you weren't seduced by the cabal, whereas let's say Brad Pitt was, or all the other celebrities that were. What made you in those moments withstand the temptation?
Well, the cabal didn't approach me until I was already in my early 20s. So when I was a teenager, I just, honestly, my form of escapism was going to the local library and just reading for hours. Yeah, I've always been addicted to information since I was a kid. And so that's how I would escape all the bullying, all the people not wanting to be my friend, all the name calling that I got in school, for being different. So I would go to the local library and I would just consume myself with books. And I mean, at the age of 16, I had already read Plato's Republic, heavy books, like books that you would consider, university and college text level books. I was already reading Political Theory, Volume 1, 2, Modern Day Philosophy. I read all of Nietzsche, Kierkegaard, Immanuel Kant, you name them, Friedrich Schiller. Like, I read every 18th century philosopher. I read everything about science. I got into learning about astrophysics. And I was only 16, and so that's how I would escape that. That's how I would escape what I would call my inner turmoil, because I was a depressed teenager because of the fact that it was very hard for me to fit in. But I was also drinking a lot. My mother passed away at 16, and that just kind of really, really made me want to drink even more in order to kind of deal with my hurt, my pain of not having any more parents at the age of 16. And so I stopped drinking at the age of 20 after going to the hospital a few times for vomiting blood and stuff. And after a thorough analysis of my of my physical organs, I was told that if I continue on this trajectory, that I'm probably not going to make it for another 5 years. I'm going to end up developing cirrhosis of the liver, other organ damage. And I mean, I was drinking a lot. I was drinking so much. From the moment I got up in the morning, I started, drinking to the time I went to sleep at night. So I was drinking all throughout the day. I was always drunk. I never wanted to be sober. So, but I haven't had a drink since then. It's been almost 44 now. I would have to say 24 years, yeah, since I've drinking, and I don't ever want to go back to that. Once I had my awakening at the age of 21 after doing Kriya Kundalini and really having my inner understanding of things coming back that I was suppressing for many years due to my religious upbringing, everything just changed for me. I was offered modeling gigs, which was, to me, was just extra money. I had a part-time job, and then I did modeling part-time. So that's how I was able to support myself. Not to mention, I was a dad at the age of 20. My daughter was born, she's now 23, actually. She just turned 23 in June. So yeah, I was forced to, mature at an early age. I had 2 jobs when she was born, but then I got the modeling gig, and that kind of helped out when I was like 23, 24. And so, that's when they approached me. That's when they, I guess, due to looking glass technology, they see who's going to be influential in the future and who's not. And so I think that's what they did, and they've always known about me. But I also always had special protection. Yeah, because of my family lineage. I come from the royal house of Spain. My real, I guess, my ancestry could be traceable to the last of the kingdom of Spain that used to be called Septimania, that existed 700 years ago. And so because of that, because I'm, I claim, I guess I'm considered the real, how can I say it, heir to the throne of Spain. I've always had like special protection, perhaps from the benevolent secret societies, those that were associated with the Knights Templars, the Priority of Zion. So my whole ancestry has always been protected. That's what I've been informed, and that's the reason why the Illuminati only approached me to try to seduce me, but they knew that they couldn't really directly do anything wrong. They could only try to convert me. They could only try to convert me, but they couldn't really try to do away with me because of my special protection.
Interesting. And was there ever a moment that you felt weakness to go into there? You were rock solid. You didn't.
Oh, my intuition smelled a rat from the moment that guy walked into the Starbucks, and I was sitting there, and he looked pretty wicked. He looked like one of those cats from Harry Potter, that evil guy that has that pale skin with the black eyes, and he's like a dark evil sorcerer. I forget his name, but he's the villain of Harry Potter. He's the guy with the long hair.
Yes.
He looked just like him. I said to myself, wow, I could see where they get these characters to play these roles in these movies. The guy was actually a sorcerer. He wasn't part of the cabal like we know him. He was a person who had abilities. And I sensed that from the moment he walked in the room. And then at that point, I had already reconnected with my higher self. My higher self said, he's going to try to convert you. He's from the other side. Be careful. So he came up to me and he says, we know who you are. He says, we understand how powerful you are, but we have a proposition for you. If you join us, this is what we could do for you. And in the end, you will be, you would be the great leader of our entire world government. And I'm like, what? He goes, yes, we're going to set up this entire world system for you to be at the head of. And I'm like, no. But all I had to do was sign the contract to become, become famous, become an actor. And then from that point, they were going to catapult my career. And supposedly, from what I understand, that, they were going to get me into politics and everybody was going to love me. But yet I was going to be, working for the dark side. So from the beginning, I smelled a rat. And this is what I said. And they said, we offer you all the women you want. And no, there's nothing you can say that's going to entice me. I know who you guys are. I'm faithful to the light. And at this point, I suggest that you get away from me if you know what's good for you.
Ooh.
Yeah, so I threatened him, and he backed off. He backed off because at the same time I had Michael the Archangel to the right, I had Gabriel to the left, and I had Master Sanat Kumura right in front of me. And Sanat Kumura, I mean, he's the solar logos. You don't want to fuck with him, you know what I mean? Or mess with him. Sorry for the language.
No, that's appropriate. So no, that's amazing that you said that, because that's actually the prayer that we say right before we go to bed. We have Michael on the right and Gabriel on the left. So that's amazing that you actually had that in that moment. And it gives me such insight into what goes on with the celebrities that we are seeing. Like the hardest losses for me personally was Oprah and Ed Sheeran.
I
Those
know.
two like killed me when I was like, when I saw Ed Sheeran come out with his most recent album cover and it was a vampire with blood dripping down the teeth. I was like, they got to him too. So I have a question about that, Ishmael.
Sure.
Is it possible that what we're seeing now with Oprah and Ed Sheeran and a lot of these people, Brad Pitt, that that's the clone of them, and the real them is somewhere being like in a prison underground somewhere waiting to be freed? Is it possible that they're still good somewhere and they've just been cloned?
Very possible. Yeah. In fact, all the politicians that are working for the deep state and most of the celebrities have been cloned. They all have doubles and triples and quadruples. Oh
And
yeah.
the real ones, where are the real ones?
Well, due to the house cleansing that's been taking place in the last 6 years, thanks to the QAnon military operation, they have been taken to Guantanamo Bay, and so they're waiting there. They're actually going to be facing tribunals pretty soon, and that's going to happen right when EBS kicks in. It's going to be worldwide, where everyone's going to be witnessing, these people and how they were partaking in the crimes against humanity. Because Oprah was also on the Epstein list. I don't know if you know that. She
I
went to
know
that
that.
island several times, and you could only imagine how that could be so real because of the fact that she herself was molested when she was a little girl. So
You're so
maybe,
right.
exactly. So maybe it's just something that she didn't heal, and so she wanted to also commit that, as to why she went to the island a few times.
That's so interesting. And so there's a moment in all of their lives that they sold their souls.
Absolutely.
Wow, that's crazy. And the cabal understood that these people had ingratiated themselves into our hearts, so they used them for their agenda, for their mouthpieces. Can I ask what jobs you've had in the 3D world?
Sure. Well, when I first started my job at the age of 19, after finding out that I was going to have a baby, my very first job ever was at Babies R Us in the
Oh,
retail department. I used to sell strollers and cribs and stuff, car seats, and that was pretty simple. It was just retail, just customer service, right? After that, I went to work for a company that was building airplane parts. So it was like industrial warehouse type work. And then after that, I became a 411 operator. So when people called for directory assistance, I was one of those guys that would answer and say, "How can I help you?" And then after that, I did construction for about 6 months as an apprentice. I'm not very hands-on. I'm more cerebral than I am physical, so that didn't work out for me. um, and then after that, I got into a marketing and advertising company. And that's what I did for like 15 years. Yeah, that's what I did for 15 years as a full-time job. So that's pretty much it. Yeah.
Are you still doing that job?
Occasionally here and there, I'm mainly focusing now on my book. I'm writing a new chapter as I do a new edit and a new edition. And I'm also teaching online courses. I think I'm booked till November now. So I'm just putting most of my energy in that, which is my passion now, is educating people on the higher knowledge in preparation for the ascension. And also it helps to activate a lot of people, and they have been. I've luckily been receiving, and I'm so humble about this because it makes me feel so good when people DM me and said, "Ishmael, I've been watching your interviews. I've been reading your book. I just wanted to say that you activated something in me. My life is different. I see things from a higher perspective. Thank you so much." And that brings joy and tears to me. I get so many people saying that. I love it. It makes me really, it just makes me realize that I'm having a positive impact on the world right now. And that time sometimes gets a little emotional for me, so I do cry. I don't let my feelings in. Sometimes tears of joy come out
That's
when I
beautiful.
receive these messages.
I totally understand. It's the highest feeling of fulfillment when I make my little videos before I go to my 3D job. And when I get comments on my YouTube videos and people are connecting with me in the spiritual language, I so get what you're saying. It's like I'm doing what I came here to do, and it's the most fulfilling. Like you could cry from it, so I get that. What are your thoughts on circumcision?
Well, I never really thought about that, But based on what I've read, it was done in order to minimize the pleasure a male gets. Am I correct or not?
I mean, this is a hot topic in Jewish. A lot of Jewish people came forward asking me because we're so confused now because Judaism has been infiltrated and there is so much satanic infiltration. So we know that Abraham and God made a pact with circumcision, like that was their sign with each other. And then Ishmael in the Bible got circumcised also because he was a son of Abraham as well. So my heart tells me that circumcision is something beautiful. I just wanted to hear your thoughts though.
It all depends on perspective, because I guess the whole intention behind that was to keep the man's genitalia cleaner for the women, because when that extra skin is there, it kind of causes bacteria to grow. But when that extra skin is gone, you don't grow as much bacteria and germs. So I would have to say that it has to do with being more of a hygiene type of a purpose, keeping yourself cleaner down there and stuff for a man.
And not spiritual. There's no spiritual aspect of that.
There could be, because cleanliness is godliness, right? When a person has less bacteria in their body, especially in their genitalia, that's like a sacred organ, by the way.
Yes.
When people do have intercourse, it's a sacred union of an energy exchange taking place between two divine beings, especially if they're starseeds. That's like, it's so much powerful when a starseed comes together in a divine union like that. I mean, if they only knew, that how positively it's affecting the entire universe through the energies that they release. It's actually producing the spin in the galaxy. When all the different species, all the different humans in the galaxy are having intercourse, that actually produces an energy called orgon, which causes a more of a bigger spin in the galaxy, and then in turn that spins off new solar systems and new worlds. So it's it's something that's happening on every level of reality. Like we think it's just a physical thing, but little do we know that we're contributing to the life force that is constantly creating new worlds and terraforming new stars.
So it's cosmic.
It is cosmic. Yeah, it's cosmic.
So the question on that is, how about the solo orgasm?
The solar orgasm.
The solo, like if a person is not with a partner.
Any type of orgasm contributes to the spin of the galaxy because it's all connected through energy fields. So it's the energy that we release, which is such a wonderful energy. Of course, that's like the best feeling ever. When somebody has that experience, whether it's self or with a partner, you're contributing to the overall life systems of what is called the orgon energy. That's why it's called orgasm, because orgon energy is what spins the galaxies into being. It allows new solar systems to come into formulation, new planets to spin and terraform. Yeah, it's all connected.
Because we're taught, I think Christians are taught this, and Jews are definitely taught this, that if a man spills his seed, you're good?
Yes, hold on one second.
Sure.
A little better. Thank you, appreciate it. My wife's nurse is coming in. I'm just letting you know she's in the bedroom. Sorry about that.
Not at all. Here's the dog.
If we're not live, you could always edit this out.
Absolutely. No, it keeps it real. I like it.
Okay, cool.
I like knowing you're a person.
Okay.
So the question was,
it's my dog. Hold on. Athena, come here. Sorry about that. My dog's jumping all over her. She's getting uneased.
Hi, Athena. Tell her I say hi.
I will. She could hear you. That's my dog. Whenever you guys hear a chain rattling or something clicking, it's my dog.
Yeah, she sounds fierce, man. She sounds like big.
Oh, she's beautiful looking. She's a fawn pit bull, very beautiful with golden, like almost like liquid gold eyes. They just pierce into you.
Okay, so back to my question. So we have Judaism and Christianity has the take on a man spilling his seed, from what I've been taught, is that negative entities will attach themselves to them, and it's created a lot of fear, shame, and guilt inside the religion, especially for teenage boys. So what do you think is the real deal with the spilling of the seed concept?
All right, well, if it's done, if they're doing it themselves, they are, how can I say it? They're giving away their life force, because for a man, their seed is their life force. So if they could do it in moderation, like not every day, once a week, to in order to prevent what's called prostate cancer, okay, because that's a healthy. You have to do it sometimes, but don't do it every day. You have to allow your life force to build within your testicles, because that's where all your nutrients are concentrated and stuff. But if it's done in a union with somebody else who is vibrating at your level, and it's done in love, which is the highest form of doing that, then you're actually contributing to the overall creation process of the entire universe.
I love
Yeah.
that. That actually really resonates with me. I love that thought. That brings me to a question that I got from so many people. People who, this time period that we're in of COVID made people realize just how different they were from their spouse. So people were asking me, if they're not on the same wavelength as their spouse, what's going to happen? Are they going to stay with this person? Is everything going to be like shifted around in terms of who you're going to be with? That was a big question that came up.
No, because those that are not vibrating with these new frequencies of fifth dimensional reality, of fifth dimensional energies, are going to be shifting into a new timeline than those that are not. So we might see many people separating from each other that are not of equal vibration anymore. So this is what many prophecies call the harvest, right? The harvest is really about like where you're resonating with. Depending on where you're resonating, that'll depend if whether you go in the this timeline or that timeline. So there will be a bifurcation of timelines. And for those that are not vibrating anymore, because one is awakened and one is still programmed, they're eventually going to separate from each other. Well, it's going to translate in the physical world as a divorce, but eventually that's where it's all heading.
Got you. What does marriage look like in the 5D? Is it still a contract that you sign with each other? What's marriage going to evolve into? And is it a monogamous, in the higher dimensions, is it a monogamous society?
Only to the fifth dimension. The fourth and the fifth dimension, there's still monogamy. And it's not done by a judge or a priest or a pastor or some religious authority, because that's part of the old paradigm. That's part of organized religion. It's more of an understanding between two souls coming together in divine union. So that's what marriage is in the fourth and fifth dimensional worlds or civilizations out there. Beyond the fifth dimension, because we do move into a social memory complex where we go from being just individuals to a collective unimind while maintaining our individuality. It's more like plural. At that point, for instance, civilizations that exist within the sixth dimension and up are no longer, it's not just one person being with one person. You could have up to multiple partners in those realities, because of the fact that everyone is part of this unity consciousness. So we all see each other as a reflection of each other and everyone. We see everyone as ourselves. So at that point, it's not just about exchanging energy with one individual, but exchanging energy with, the community. And, at that level of reality, there's no diseases, there's no jealousy, there's no obsession, all that stuff is third dimensional stuff. So everyone is under some form of collective understanding of things. Yeah.
Got it. It's like once you're no longer possessive of this other person, you're like free to experience, and you want the other person to experience too, love in all the forms.
Yes, because when you're exchanging energy with others, when you get together with others and you do that, you actually exchange energy. So at the cellular level, let's take, for example, the trillions of cells. Our trillions of cells are all hooking up with each other, because of the fact that they're all working together to make your organism exist. They don't just stick to one cell. They exchange energy with every cell. That's how it works. So that's what we're getting into.
That's a great analogy. That actually helps me understand it. Yeah. Because it's for the greater, it's for the greater experience.
Exactly.
Of everybody. Okay, this was a big question also that I kept getting from the Jewish community. And I'm almost afraid to ask it, but here we go. As far as you know, has the Hebrew text of the original Bible, the 5 books of Moses, has the Hebrew text, we know that the Roman Catholic Church mistranslated it. We know that they've, changed the language, but has the original Hebrew been tampered with or edited?
Yes, because Babylon's been controlling this world for for a few thousand years. So they always put their 2 cents in everything. They always taint everything in order to suit their agenda. But the first 5 books in the Bible are probably the most important books. That is the foundation of our Judeo-Christian tradition. And so I would have to say that the stories and the metaphors that were meant to help us understand the divine and our relationship to the divine are still there. So it's been written in different levels of understanding. So the dark side couldn't really mess with the metaphors. They just kind of edited different things. Like for instance, the book of Enoch was taken away. The book of Jubilee was taken away. The book, all these other books that talked about the Nephilim in great detail and when the giants roamed the earth, all those books were deleted because they were actually talking about our extraterrestrial connection, right? And so that's to give you an example of what they edited. But as far as like the principles and the teachings are still there in metaphor, and we just have to read it from a level of understanding that that only we could understand. So.
Yeah, no, that's a great answer. Thank you for that. The way I look at the Torah and the Bible is that I think that we learned a very 3D version of it, but I think that just like our DNA is going to come to life in a different way, I think the Torah will also. I think it's coded and encrypted, and there's so much more in it. And I think the letters themselves, the Hebrew letters, will come to life just the same way, that the double helix will come to life. And I think as we ascend, the Torah, the 5 books of Moses will ascend with us and be like the blueprint of our lives as it is now.
Yes, it's all going to be restored, by the way. All that stuff.
Good.
No, yeah.
Good. And that was the piece that was missing, Ishmael, like this cosmic piece where I felt like kind of betrayed by my religion. Like no one was talking about the galaxies. So it makes me feel better that it was, actually taken from us by the dark side. I can make peace with that now. What time we got? I can have you for 10 more minutes.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, this is a big one also. Can you explain why transgenderism and homosexuality are such a strong part of the dark agenda?
Because the whole purpose of coming into these lower dimensions and becoming male and female is so that we could exchange energies. There, how can I say, the genitalia, there is a reason why it's designed the way it is. One goes inside the other because that it acts like a connecting point. It's a connection of chakras generating energy between 2 individuals. And so it's very hard to do that when you are involved with a partner of the same sex. At that point, it's just more about physical sensation than spiritual gratification or spiritual, how can I explain it? The best way to explain it is, the original creation was men and women, and so the agenda of transvestites and, promoting homosexuality, in a way, I don't have anything about homosexuality. My daughter's gay, by the way. She's involved with her partner who she wants to marry one day. But it's when they push it, and then when they're trying to confuse people about their gender, that's when it becomes evil. That's when it becomes really evil. So I honor free will. I don't have anything against the homosexual community. But what I do have a beef with is the fact that the cabal is pushing, this idea of changing your sex. That to me is Satanism. When a guy changes his sex to a female, that's completely dark in Satanism. When a female wants to become a guy, it's because you're not happy with the way God created you. God created you like that for a reason. So yeah, That's the way I see it.
That's such a great answer. That was such a great answer. Thank you for that. And it's the way I see it, to expand on what you said, is that they're just trying to keep us in low vibe, trying to keep the vibration as low as possible. So we don't do this ascension thing. So I think that's their overall aim with everything that's in the woke culture.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I'm going to end with this thought. It's not really a question, but more of a thought. That I've always looked at the sunset or at clouds and things in nature, and I was like never satisfied with just looking at things. I was like, I want to be that. I want to be the sunset. I want to be the cloud. And then I heard you in an interview say that we will get to a time after, I think, the 12th dimension, where we will be the sunset. We will be the cloud. And that was such a comfort to my soul, to know that my energy will be that beautiful thing, because looking at it was never enough for me. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes, that is so true. You know, planets, elements, galaxies, universes, they were once human, just like we were. So as we expand and evolve in dimensions, we also expand our consciousness. And as we become part of this social memory complex with others of like-minded souls, then we become a collection of souls and a collection of consciousness. And that's when we decide to become the consciousness of a planet together. So a planet was a collection of individual souls from the 6th dimension who went to the 7th dimension, who decided to become a planet together. And so they embodied the consciousness of a planet.
That's so beautiful. And I can't believe I like understand what you mean. Like, I get it. It's really like, I'm one of these people who you have helped. You're helping really to wake up my soul. So I'm so grateful for you. And I'm signed up. I told you I'm going to be joining your course in September. I can't wait to learn the more techniques of activation. And I'm grateful for today.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me here.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ismael.